Ever notice someone dragging large black bags through the hospital lobby and wonder who they are? That, my friend, is a medical device rep. Welcome to Device Guys. Your hosts, Brent Lloyd and Jason Doliak, bring 50 years of combined medical sales experience to the table, sharing insights, stories, and a behind-the-scenes look at this fascinating world. Enjoy the conversations.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brent. He's Jason. We're the Device Guys. Welcome to the podcast. Jason, how do you do?
I do great, buddy. How do you do? You're looking good.
I do just fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you look fantastic.
Got a little sun. It's Saturday. Feeling pretty good about everything.
Did you notice what I noticed rolling up here today? The Ichiban Sushi.
Yeah, on 90th
on
there.
90th, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you notice I got parked, the traffic was bad, and you notice that 50% off sign is...
Yeah, I spent some time at that light myself, and I did look over and see. I think the thing that was probably the most disconcerting was the 50% off is not a banner.
No. It's built in.
It's part of the sign. Mm-hmm. Like they went to a sign company and said, we want this to say, did you already say the name of the sushi joint?
I don't know. I did not. I think it may have said Ichiban.
Yeah, Ichiban. Yeah. I want to say Ichiban, but then we want right there to say 50% off.
Let's bring them in. Get them in here. Let's bring them in here.
I mean, I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean, we have to go try this out because I don't know. How does this work? I mean, I want to go see what those menu prices look like. I also want to see what's that?
Is it 50% off like what Takashi would be? Or
it's a great question. We got to
like the best sushi place in all of Salt Lake, or is it like if it was a banner, I'd be like, that sushi's going bad.
It's not. It's
they take the banner out, but if it's always up,
yeah, if it's up at the end of the month,
yeah, but if it's part of the sign, it's almost like when Little Caesars used to do, 2 pizzas.
Right.
You're paying for 2 pizzas.
Yeah.
You're paying full price for that sushi.
We should go in there and test it out.
What if the bill comes and it is what it is, and then you notice there's not a discount?
Yeah.
Or would you?
Yeah, we'd say, excuse me. Yeah. I remember reading something on the way in that this is all 50% off.
Yeah, there was this part of your sign, I believe, that there's a discount associated with the sushi.
Yeah. I'd like to see that here. I don't see
maybe
that
after maybe after we shoot the pod. It'll be a little later, but I bet they're still open. Maybe we stop by.
Yeah, you know what I could do with some dysentery? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. What else you got?
Well, I mean, it's been we've been back, relatively recently. I think we're pretty good. I don't think we've missed too much.
No, I think we should probably point out that we got the clinician's tablecloth.
We do,
here.
Yeah.
This is 2 in a row.
It is 2 in a row.
We have our third physician guest on the show today.
Big one today.
Big one today.
Yeah.
This is, it's a cardiologist. We've had a couple of cardiologists on.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had a surgeon on yet.
Not till today.
And I think it's going to be a big treat for our viewers and listeners.
I think so too.
Should we introduce him?
Let's introduce him. You go ahead, do the honors.
He's a good friend, and he's also a good friend of the podcast. Everybody, welcome Dr. Dave Affleck.
Good to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
We're super happy you're here.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
You gave us this great background, at least, especially for me, because Lloyd knows you pretty well. And for me, it was kind of figuring you out. And tell me about Rush. Tell me about how Rush influenced you so heavily. Because I look back, I blame my father, right? It's so much of what you're raised into. Like everything for me growing up was John Denver, Gordon Lightfoot, Neil Diamond, and Jim Croce.
Yes, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Well, of course, who doesn't, right? But I mean, if Karen Carpenter comes on, I start tearing up. That's just me. I don't know.
No, top of the world.
Oh.
Well, I went from, riding in the camper van down to the Green River, fishing with my dad, listening to, what's that, ooga chaka, ooga chaka, ooga, ooga, ooga chaka.
Yeah, I know that.
On 8-track,
on 8-track.
8-track, yeah. And we had an 8-track player. I think, I'm not sure where, Rush, where it started, but somewhere around I'd say my 9th grade year, I had friends that were. I played soccer. Mm-hmm. My father was an orthopedic surgeon, so he wouldn't allow us to play football. It was just like Yeah, no. I take care of a bunch of middle-aged men with injuries that thought they were all that. So we don't play football. We do other things like, soccer. Like you can't get injured playing soccer. But anyway, the kind of captain of the soccer team was a big Rush fan, and kind of got me into it. And I don't know. For me, Rush was, deep meaning in the lyrics. At least I took them to be that way.
Yeah.
And, I feel like if I look back on my life, honestly, Rush was one of the biggest influences on my life. I've seen them in concert, I don't know, 30 or 40 times, followed them. Let's see, what was that, between my sophomore and junior year, followed them with a bunch of my buddies, like went and saw them in California, Vegas, Salt Lake, Boise, followed them around. Funny story about Rush, and I don't remember whether I mentioned any of this in my write-up, but in high school I was an AP student, but I was sort of, I guess, an AP student that was always looking to do a little less work than I had to, or for some reason.
Well, you saw the angles.
Saw the angles.
Yeah.
But a funny story about Rush, we, a couple of my buddies, and both of them are physicians. One's an ER doc, one's an obstetrician. But we thought we had to do this. Every year they have this contest, and I don't remember the name of it, but you had to create a poem or something for, this, what do they call it,
Reflections?
kind of like reflections, something like that.
Yeah, but you're in high school.
You're in
so
high
it's a
school,
bigger
yeah.
thing.
So
it could go on a college application.
So we're sitting there one night and we said, well, Neil Peart writes the best lyrics that's ever been written. So of course, AP English, I submit, there is unrest in the forest, there is trouble with the trees, for the maples want more sunlight and the oaks ignore their pleas, which is the kind of the beginning stanza of The Trees by Rush.
I went and listened to it.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
my AP, teacher, Donna Parker, says,
Not a Rush fan? She was not a Rush
well,
fan.
she didn't know. She put her hand over her heart and said, oh. And I knew I was in trouble, because then my two buddies got up and followed with theirs, and we won.
Of course.
And ended up in the vice principal's office because we'd plagiarized, But anyway.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's a tip of the cap to Rush,
That's right.
I mean,
the thing about Rush is people love Rush. Like my brother-in-law, same as you. He's seen them dozens of
I'm very skeptical of someone if they don't like Rush. I'm very skeptical of them, I'll be honest with you.
You know how you feel about Rush? Jason kind of felt the same way about Rick Springfield
Rick Springfield.
in high school. Jesse's girl.
Oh,
Jesse's girl.
He followed his tour for a while. I'm sorry, I had to say that.
well, you said it was cute.
But I spent a lot of time, I cleaned my father's office at night, and I'd have my little Sony Walkman on with the headphones. There were no earbuds then, right?
Yeah.
Rush, just
Album rock, man. I mean, that's what, now everything is just like 3 minutes. Make a hit in 3 minutes. But album rock, I mean, you think about back then when you had like Cream and Lynyrd Skynyrd and even Dire Straits did.
Yeah.
The album was each song kind of built off.
or if you Rush, you play the entire, A side of 2112, in concert. That could never play on the radio, right?
Right. And have a bunch of people so into it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the big thing is that the people you were with at that time in your life probably was what was the defining thing. You think about the guys you travel with and the groups that are there. That's got to be a similar mindset. It's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. What got you into medicine? How'd you get down that road?
Well, I mean, I think I grew up with a father that, was an orthopedic surgeon and loved his job, loved helping people. And I think, I grew up kind of, I'd say, into sports, but probably people would say I was a nerd. I mean, I went to band camp and I went to science camp.
Wait a minute. You went to band camp?
Many times. Yeah, I played first chair trumpet, yeah. And
See, you were actually
First
good.
chair
See,
trumpet.
I played the alto sax.
Jason revealed on our last episode that he played alto sax.
I did.
in junior high and into high school.
I even had a silver Stradivarius flugelhorn so that I could play Chuck Mangione. But this all stemmed from my father my father was an excellent trumpet player, and so he, wanted his sons to, play the trumpet. So none of us, ever approached, what he could do, but yeah.
So this is a little sidebar. I know your dad, right? Yeah. Like when I was getting ready to go play baseball at Colorado State, I injured my shoulder. It wasn't like a traumatic injury. It just all of a sudden it was this overuse injury. I couldn't even lift my arm, and I had to be in Fort Collins in like a month, and I was panicked. I mean, I couldn't even lift my arm up, let alone throw across the diamond. And everyone was like, Gordon Affleck, he's your guy. And so my dad drove me out to see your dad, and I'm a 21-year-old kid. Motrin was brand new, and he prescribed me Motrin, and I ate it like M&Ms, and it was he got me better. There was an impingement; it just needed to be, the inflammation needed to die. But I thought it was going to be surgery, but he was great. So I always remember that about.
That's what my family tells me now. It doesn't matter what's wrong with you. I'm like, take some Tylenol, take some Motrin. They're like, Dad, you're a heart surgeon. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not going to do heart surgery on you, so take some ibuprofen or
right.
Yeah, ice it, rest it, take a nap.
Rice therapy, right?
Yeah.
So you knew medicine was a path because your dad was a doc.
Yeah, I think I grew up. I love science. Like I got a chemistry set for Christmas, and I would say. Little bit of a nerd, I guess. My wife certainly thinks I was a nerd. You were definitely a nerd. You went to band camp and you went to science camp and you saved your money for a telescope and those sort of things. And I spent a lot of time, building rockets and. I had this idea to, I wanted to send a mouse into space. So, I kind of built this whole, this rocket and it had, multiple stages with D. And if you don't know anything about like rockets, there's like A, B, C, and D rockets. And so I built a rocket and then built a little suit for a mouse, and with the glass bottle was the head cap over. And I'm like watching. I wanted to be an astronaut. I was going to be an astronaut. That's what I wanted to do when I was younger. I didn't realize there was only going to be like 5 of them.
True.
There's just it's hard to be that, but that's what I wanted to be. So, I was I don't know where that mouse ever came down actually, but it went really.
Did you equip that mouse with like a parachute?
No, well, it did have a parachute on it, but I was trying to send him into space.
Yeah.
So went up, and then we never saw it.
You never found it? Well, you might have got orbit.
Maybe.
It could have happened.
Never know.
Never know.
That's impressive.
So then you the other thing you did when you were in your youth is you cycled a lot.
Yes.
And this is back when.
So, yeah, I was cycling, for sure before. It would have been around the time that, Greg LeMond was coming on the scene, but certainly before cycling was cool, certainly before there was any, it started off with a couple of buddies, I can't believe my parents let us do this, but we'd equipped our bikes with, like packs and panniers, and we would, ride. This is when I'm like 12 to 13, 14, ride from our house to like Timpanogos campground and camp over and then ride back. But what I realized doing that, Antelope Island,
It's right there.
Like my dad, he must have been insane, like letting me do these things, right?
Yeah, but in those days, you could do anything.
Yeah, and I think my dad was just such an outdoors. He grew up hunting and fishing and camping, and that was just fine. But what I realized doing it was that I like to go fast, and so I started shedding, the packs, and then the racks and everything, and then I bought the first bike I bought was a Fuji, and in my home you could have anything you wanted, but you had to come to the table with 50% of the money, right?
That's what we did.
It's pretty strong
at the Lloyd house.
Yeah, I like that.
And so I saved up money, bought this bike, and then I started, just training and riding before anyone, and I grew up kind of up in Bountiful, up by near where the Bountiful Temple is, quite up high. So every time I would go for a ride, I'd have to ride up this huge hill, right? And then I just started looking into racing and signed up for a race and went and did it, and then kind of got the bug. But what I think I really liked about it was, just to be fair and honest, is kind of the suffering.
Right.
Like on my bike now, I have those little custom stem mounts, and it says "Embrace the suck."
Mm-hmm.
Right. I like the challenge. I like the I like the challenge.
You do hard things.
Yeah.
It's kind of a theme on the pod.
We've definitely talked about that a lot. Just
Right.
get in there and do the stuff you don't want to do. Like all my kids and my, step kids and my, god kids, whatever I've told them, I'm like, do it because you don't want to.
Yeah.
Take the stairs because you don't want to. Get the cold plunge because you don't want to.
Yeah. You can do it. You can get through those things. But so I basically, turned what was this fun little kind of camping thing into racing, and then I was good at it, and I was good at suffering, and I was good at the solitude of suffering. And so let's see, so in 86, so I was the state road and time trial champion of Utah in 86. So when I was 16, 17 years old or something like that. And at that point, everything shifted to, I'm going to be a professional cyclist. And, that's another level, completely, that's kind of like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a professional cyclist. To be a professional cyclist is a whole, another level.
Right.
And that dream kind of died a little bit when I flatted in the state road race as a first-year senior. So I was 18, so now I was riding with the older cyclists and flatted, maybe 200 or 300 yards from the finish line in a group of 3 people that couldn't beat me in a sprint if they,
Right.
ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I said, maybe this isn't meant to be, and I went on a mission. And so that was kind of where that kind of died, but then in the back of my head, I still wanted to do it. And while I was on my mission, the coach that was the U.S. junior coach became a senior level coach at the U.S. Olympic, training center. So when I got home from my mission, I got home in October, and he was like, hey, we need you over here at the Olympic Training Center in December. I'm like, okay. So just started riding that bike, in the cold weather and getting ready to go, and then moved over to the Olympic Training Center in December, and then subsequently moved down to back to San Diego, where I had served my mission to continue training, until I had this epiphany one day that, what am I doing? These kids there was kids that were several years younger than I was that were just faster. They were just better and faster, and it was obvious to me. And I just kind of pivoted and just came back, pre-med, that's that.
And that's that.
That's a good level of self-awareness. Like my brother being a professional athlete, seeing some of the kids that were kind of peripheral to him, you can get guys that get going a long road down the professional athletics part, especially in baseball, where it's like, hey, listen, you're either going to make it or you're not. But
and there's lots of levels that you can get.
So many.
Yeah.
Well, and so much of it is luck.
Oh, yeah.
It's I remember, I won't mention his name, but it was, I was working at a sporting goods store when I first got back from Colorado, and we got an application. We did team sales, so we would go to high schools and do their uniforms.
Okay.
Right, and that was kind of my way into the world of sales, right? Mm-hmm. And we got an application from a guy that I played baseball against in both high school and college, who was probably the best baseball player in the state. Mm-hmm. And he was with the Brewers, and he probably spent 4 years in their system. And, it says previous employer, it said Milwaukee Brewers Baseball Club, address, the whole thing. And there's a reason for leaving, and he wrote, faced reality.
Yeah.
Because it's you got to realize, look, it's not going to happen for me, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were one of those guys that had fallbacks. You're smart enough.
Yeah, but I still ride, pretty much year round.
You rode today?
I rode today, yeah. I rode the top of Big Mountain today. I still love to ride. I loved it, and I thought I was going to make a career of it, but then realized that's not going to happen. But I still love to ride. I ride gravel. I ride mountain. I ride road.
Jason's a big rider.
I did a bunch of mountain bike racing back in the day, and then back when I was hardtail, and then I've 3 back surgeries and 4 knee surgeries. I'm like, all right, let's go with a little more casual.
Yeah.
So I still ride now a bit, but
it's like you think when you're younger, you think you're going to be a professional golfer, and then at some point you realize I am golfing for fun. Like, stop throwing my club, stop snapping a club, or like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
You're doing this for fun,
Right?
You're not a professional golfer. You have no right to. So go do it for fun.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is fun. It's great to get out there.
So let's shift a little bit.
Let's go into fellowship. Let's go into some of your training. So what'd you tell me about some of the leaders for you in training?
Yeah. So when I decided I want to go to medical school, I got married. Let's see. I got married in 1990, Flag Day, 1990.
Flag Day.
Yeah.
We all remember Flag Day.
Of course.
14th, of course, right?
Oh, June 14th.
Yeah. but so, I got married before I was in medical school. So, we were, and my wife, Crystal, we were kind of this, partnership in trying to get into medical school and then kind of make all these decisions along the way. But I was pretty sure I wanted to be a surgeon. But the thing about medical school and medical training is no physician can know what it's like to be that until they're it.
This is a point that the other 2 physicians have brought up on this.
I mean, it is really like when someone tells me they wanted to be a heart surgeon when they're, since they were 5, I'm like, dork, like impossible.
Right.
You have no idea.
You have no idea.
And you could like science, and you could even think, I want to do something with the heart, or I want to do something with sports, right? But to really be it, I mean, by the time you're there, it's kind of, you're there and you're it. But what my dad, my dad influenced me. He said, whatever you choose to do, make sure that you feel passionate about it, that you feel that, because you're going to wake up and go do it every day, like for the rest of your life. So choose something that you want to do, because my father-in-law was always like, why aren't you doing orthopedics? Like, you could take over your father's orthopedic practice. And they have I think at some point their practice they were the physicians for the Utah Stars and the Stars before the Jazz.
Yeah.
And the Jazz, and they'd seen their millionth patient visit. And I'm just like, I just wasn't interested in ortho.
Right.
I mean, I just wasn't interested at all.
Yeah.
I gave away my orthopedic rotations when I was an intern to other guys so I could do cardiac, which they were all the other interns were really happy to give that up. So I med school, I got into med school at the University of Utah. Then as I went through med school, I thought, I want to do something, I think, with the heart, but is it cardiology or is it surgery? And the bottom line was I just could not see a path of doing an internal medicine residency. That was going to be sheer torture.
Yeah.
At every step.
People don't, I don't think lay people, I mean, a lot of people don't even know. You have to decide. Are you going to be a medicine, or are you going to go into surgery?
Surgery, right.
And that's a fork in the road.
It's a big fork, but I chose general surgery because it still offered, lots of opportunities to do, I thought about being a transplant surgeon, solid organ transplant. Mm-hmm. Okay. I thought about plastic surgery, cardiac surgery. I didn't have to limit my choices at that point. But mostly, I would say the choice to go into general surgery had to do with the residents that you rotated with. And I think the personality of the residents you rotate with has a big effect. So, for example, medicine was not pleasant. It was a lot of standing by the bedside and talking about patients, and then talking some more, and then asking some questions, then walking to the next room, and never fixing anything or curing anything. But that was the path to cardiology, mm-hmm. which I knew was the ability to do things and fix patients. I just couldn't see that. So I'm like, I'll do surgery, and I'll decide later. Along the way, I spent a lot of time in my summers off, doing research. through first the general surgery lab, and then, with Dr. Karwandi, who was the chair of cardiac surgery at the University of Utah. So he came to the University of Utah with Bill Gay. He was Bill Gay's fellow in New York, and Bill Gay came to Utah, was the chairman, and hired Bill DeVries, who did Barney Clark surgery, and that all happened while Karwandi was there. And for sure he's I'd say outside of Rush and my father, like the biggest influence on my life as far as how I looked at things and saw things, and a big reason why I decided to go into cardiac surgery.
Yeah.
So
Kay was great. That guy was quiet.
Yeah.
But when he spoke, you listened, and he was intimidating too. Like I found him to be pretty intimidating.
Yeah. I mean,
when I started working with him, I didn't work with him closely. Because he kind of phased out. He didn't do a lot of TAVR, but he was the guy you paid attention to for sure.
So when you were an intern, on his service, he was super busy clinically, as far as like the number of cases. But when you were his intern, you had certain assignments, and that was a lot of the floor work and the, taking care of the patients and the discharge summaries and the admissions and, the dictations and stuff. But he had there's this little duplicate paper, and when he would get the duplicate paper, which I had filled out, then he would dictate a letter to the referring physician about, what the patient had been sent home on or whatever. And he had this rule, about the number of pain medications that the patients would get. And I'd made kind of a decision, to give this particular patient, slightly less than what, he said this one. And he called me to his office, and he said, "This is not a place for independent thinking. This number, no more, no less." It was basically like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
right.
But not in a way that it was just more like, this is what, this is how we do it.
Yeah.
And,
you had a story you told me once about, were you going to extubate a patient or something like that in the ICU? And the nurses talk to me about that. That's okay. A good story.
So I need to give a little bit of background so that someone doesn't see this and be like, so Dr. Karwandi would come in the ICU, and I was the ICU resident. He would say, he would go look at the patient, and he would disconnect the ventilator from the endotracheal tube, and he would basically, there's measurements the ventilator does as far as their negative inspiratory force and whether they're ready. He would see the patient was awake, and he would disconnect it, and he would say, pull the tube. And, I would say, well, the minute ventilation is only this or whatever, and he would say, if he wants to live, he will breathe. I mean, it was joking because he wasn't telling me to pull out a tube in patients that weren't breathing.
Right.
It was kind of this, kind of thing. I don't know if that should be included or not, but like these little things I learned from him along the way were to look at the patient, don't look at the numbers. Don't look
right.
And it was like the patient's awake, the patient's breathing, I've since been in trouble because I said that, at St. Mark's, and someone, reported me as being a callous,
right.
physician. Times have changed a little bit.
But I've heard other surgeons, surgeons have a way, with the way they speak. But I've had one surgeon that I work with frequently, and his line is, living things want to live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the guy will breathe. If he wants to live, he will breathe.
It seems like with the kind of work you do, a level of pragmatism is required. And there was a night. I mean, my closest thing. I mean, me being a pacemaker rep, all I'd have done with cardiac surgeons just some epicardial leads, kind of things. And it's very minimal. One night I went in before transplant to turn off a defibrillator, and I asked the cardiac surgeon, like, "Can I stick around and watch this?" And stood at the head of the patient for the next 8 hours, and that blew my mind. Just seeing a heart come out that's like this, and one that goes back in like this, and seeing just the magic of bypass, and then the reconnection is.
Well, when you're a first-year medical student, they have you fill out a form like what do you think you might want to be, as if you could even possibly know what it would be like to be that. And I listed cardiac surgery, and they match you with a mentor. And then and I got matched with Kent Jones, who's like, genius surgeon, one of the most gifted technically.
He's been mentioned on this podcast before, the legend.
So I got matched with him, and so I would go over to LDS Hospital at that time, meet him in the lobby, and he'd take me up to the OR. I'm a first-year medical student, and I would stand up there by the anesthesiologist and do the same thing. And that's kind of when I was like, okay, I'm not doing medicine. I'm doing surgery. Pretty sure I'm going to do this because this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, this is just the coolest thing I've ever seen. So I don't know how to get from point A to point B, but I'm going to start. I'd done a lot of hard things in my life already, in terms of like, how do you get from point A to point B? Like, okay, let's start down the path of getting from point A to point B. But watching him operate, I appreciated later because even after I got into practice, I went over and watched him do, some stentless valves, and then I recognized, like, okay, he's a wizard. He's like a wizard with his hands.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of solidified, that I wanted to, improve my skills and be better and constantly improve my craft. Seeing him, I mean, it seemed like he must have been born with it, like he was, but I'm sure it was learned.
Well, you've just reminded me of it. So I had I had lots of conversations with Kent. We would go to spring training,
Yes.
and see some games. I've spent a lot of time with him, but I remember when I first met him, like one of the first stories he told me was, you train, you get out of training, and then you go start your practice, and you got your first case you're doing, and it's the first time you don't have an attending surgeon with
Yes.
you, and he said that feeling is just one of being utterly alone, and you don't have your safety net.
I remember that at St. Mark's, like when I started, and just I'm 36. Right?
Yeah.
My first
describe that feeling. I want to.
And I'm in the room and I'm doing it. At some point, there's I don't think there was anything terrible going wrong, but there was.
Do you remember what kind of case it was?
I mean, when I first started, it seemed like I was like operating on all the half dead people missing one leg and on dialysis, and my partners were operating on healthier patients because they were getting the better referrals, but. What I do remember very distinctly is that there's an anesthesiologist up there at the head of the bed who's like in his 50s. There's a perfusionist over there who's, somewhere in, his 40s. There's all these nurses. And at some point, they all, look at me and ask me a question. And I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Like that's the moment when it sinks in. And also the moment you realize that, when you leave your fellowship, as much as good as of the, how would I say this? Even if you're at a fellowship like Kent, was at Duke, and I was at Wash U. I mean, with incredible, attendings. What you realize is that the reason you're able to do a lot of those cases when you're a fellow is because there was a guy standing across from you who was really good and could,
right.
And then now it's you, and you realize I actually can't quite do this yet. I need to learn and still grow. And so I feel like I'm still getting, better. Kind of maybe I'd say now I'm kind of in my prime. Like at 36, I thought I was.
Right. I've had other surgeons tell me that are in their 60s saying, I've never been a better surgeon.
Yeah.
And think about that.
Yeah. No, and just by experience, you just,
right.
You see this, you see that, what you can and can't do, and you know your abilities, and you know you've seen this before, where when you're 36 and you finish your fellowship, you've not seen it before,
right?
And you're standing there saying, "I don't know."
Jason, do you feel like you've ever been a better device guy than you are right now?
Never better than today.
Never better.
I think you're right.
Today's the best.
I think today's maybe your best day.
Yeah, it could be the best day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's talk about device guys.
Yeah, how do you interact with reps? I mean, from a cardiac surgery standpoint, it's a lot different than general cardiology, EP.
Yeah, do you see a lot of reps, like surgical valve reps?
Yeah, I see a lot of reps. I think. I mean, I have kind of a handful that I can think of that I kind of say, well, they're not physicians, but I'd probably let them do my valve. You know, kind of like they're like Mike Johnson. He's not a doctor, but I'd probably let him do my AAA.
Right.
You know, just the and you know, and reps that move around a lot. You know, they go from this company to that company to that company. You know, Mike's moved, you know, from Medtronic to Gore, but doing the exact same thing, right?
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I basically, whatever the issue is, I'm going to call Mike and say, what do you think, right?
Right.
And so I think a rep that stays in the space, even if they move companies but stays in the space, gives the surgeon comfort. Like when you move from, you know, valves to device to, you know, something else to wires to stents to this, like that's so I typically interact with reps that have been there a little while longer. And it's not that hard to know, you know, if they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I interact with quite a few. I mean, I kind of understand it's a hard thing to, you know, get in with a physician and talk with them, and you know, they want me to meet their regional manager, and it's important for them to, you know that their regional manager to know that they're interacting with the physician. So I try to make, you know, time for them,
Which is very cool, right?
That's really a nice thing to do.
That's a good human being.
Well, that shows that your rep has done a good enough job that you actually have a good relationship with them. You care about them as an individual, and you're willing to do that.
Yeah, but I'll do it. Just, you know, I mean, even in some things that I don't use a lot of, I'll still do it because I kind of, you know. I mean, I have had a lot of partners that just wouldn't ever talk to a rep, would never speak to a rep, and yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like I owe them at least a chance to interact.
That's cool.
That is nice.
Very cool. What else we got, Jason?
Well, I want to go down some of these some of the fellowship stories that you had. These said were pretty funny. You said there was one story about a lung transplant.
Oh,
Night fellow.
Yeah, this was at Barnes. So tell us about that. Night fellow.
So you know, Barnes Jewish is now it's called Barnes Jewish Christian. Maybe now it'll be Barnes Jewish Christian Muslim. I don't know, but Barnes Jewish. It's a big, like 18 stories with a sky bridge connecting the two sides. You know, it's an intimidating structure, and you know, I chose Wash U because it was one of two places that were doing robotic cardiac surgery at the time. And I thought that's for sure the way everything, I mean, for sure that's the way everything's going to go. You know, it turned out that's not really panned out so much in cardiac surgery as much as in other areas. But anyway, Barnes has, you know, like at that time, maybe still, you know, like the largest lung transplant experience in the world. Alec Patterson and Joel Cooper, who came from Toronto and came to Wash U and established the lung transplant program there, and described the first single lung transplant, the first double lung transplant, and then also described harvesting, you know, the organs and how to do that, how to take everything out in block. And to say in block, meaning, in other words, instead of, you know, like trimming all the arteries and veins, basically stapling things off, and then they would finish the kind of final thing, you know, back at the center when it was to go in.
So you send him a torso. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean in block, as in like you'd staple across the trachea and the esophagus, and you know.
But big.
Yeah, and so you know, I think it was not my first day as a fellow, but my second day when I was on call, and I get a call at, like, you know, I'm in the call room and I'm reading or something, and I get a call like, hey, there's a transplant, and Dr. Patterson would like you to be down in front of 1 Queenie Tower, which is the address, you know, down at the bottom, at, you know, such and such time. Oh, yeah, you know, like, oh, we're gonna do a lung transplant. This is gonna be great. And so I go down, and there's a limousine there, because the limousine would take us from 1 Queenie Tower to this private airfield, because we had a private jet, and then we would fly out and get the organs and then come back. And then over this traffic, we'd helicopter from the private airport, you know, to Barnes and land on the top and bring the organs. And so I get a call that you're, going to go harvest organs, and I'm so excited. And I hop into the limo and, like buckle up, and I look around and I see, the organ procurement person, and I see a nurse, and then I see myself. And I say, well, where's Dr. Patterson? And he hands me a manila folder, and he said, read this. It's self-explanatory. And I was like, whoa. And it turns out it was, but what I found out later is he'd already had a conversation with, so I'm sweating bullets. I mean, everyone gets on the plane, and we fly to Duke, which is pretty far, of a distance for, an organ harvest. And we land at Duke. I'm awake the whole time reading through this description of how to harvest the lungs. So you go in and I'm at the scrub sink with a surgeon that's, there, and he says to me, we're scrubbing our hands to go in. First, you look at all the blood gases, and you do a bronchoscopy, and you look at the lungs, and you say, yeah, they're acceptable. And you call Dr. Patterson, and they say, yeah, it's a go. So then he starts the recipient back at Barnes, right? Getting ready, you're cutting them open, getting ready to do the lung transplant. And then you're going to take the organs and get back on the plane and show up just in time for him to put them, to put them in. And the scrub sink, and they say, the surgeon, turns to me and says, so how long you been at Barnes? And I said, a little while, like 36 hours, But what I found out later was that, Dr. Patterson, had already talked to the surgeon and said, hey, my fellow's, going to be harvesting the lungs. And I mean, the rules now are that, an attending has to be there to harvest the lungs. Mm-hmm. But back then, fellows, and it's particularly in a busy transplant center, but that was like a real moment of like, oh boy.
Maybe kind of a test to see how you were going to react to it, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Pretty interesting.
The good news is you couldn't kill that patient.
Yeah. Well,
it's
if I mess up the harvest, though, then I could kill the recipient, right?
True.
So, it was, I was nervous all the way until he said, everything looks good. But this other surgeon who was harvesting, and it's always with a heart and a lung transplant, it's a fight over the left atrial cuff. So that it's a constant battle of the tissue, the left atrial tissue where the pulmonary veins come.
Pulmonary veins, right? That's got.
So it's if you get shorted by the heart guy takes more, and you're left with little. Now you're suddenly trying to put patches on things and stuff. So, again, I think there was Dr. Patterson, who was just like the best teacher, and he's this Canadian guy, loved hockey and took care of the residents. And I'm sure he got on the phone and said, hey, he's real green. Brand new.
Yeah.
But I just still remember that, the scrub sink. How long you been at Barnes? I was like, a little while.
The bluff.
Check your watch. Let's see.
So funny.
Yeah.
Well, we're like at about 45.
We are
right now. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna wrap it up. But I have one question. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not an ambush, Dave.
Okay.
This is a question because I've known you for a long time. I work with you. I think I know you're a terrific surgeon. I know you have great judgment in the operating room, but I got a question, some judgment outside of the operating room.
Okay.
By allowing those Mormon housewives cameras into your house. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Not a lot. We Crystal and I agreed to kind of participate, mostly to support my son and daughter-in-law. Mm-hmm. Not a fan of unreality TV. You heard what I said? Unreality.
Unreality. Yeah.
Not a big fan of it.
Wait a minute. This is that everything is exactly as represented, right?
Was that edited at all when they came in? Did they do any edits? Or?
Oh, we didn't really watch it. Like I said, we kind of supported it to support my son and daughter-in-law. But I will say, as a pivot, that she has been selected to be on Dancing with the Stars through her participation in this unreality TV series. Right. And I would not be surprised if she won it, honestly.
Right.
I mean, she's a cute girl. She's a good dancer. And yeah, they're moving down to.
Will you watch that show?
Oh, for sure.
I will too.
Yeah.
We don't watch it all the time, but we've watched that show maybe.
I've seen it a couple of times. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if you want to put some money down, like if there's like, odds that can be made, it'd be good money. It'd be.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
I like it.
You heard it here on the Device Guys pod.
Okay. Well, thank you for addressing that with us. We appreciate it. And we're happy you came on the
pleasure.
podcast.
It's good to be here.
So great.
Yeah.
You're a friend of the podcast now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I feel like you got to go back and watch.
Yeah, I
get
need
caught
to-
up
I
a
need to
little
get
bit,
caught up a
binge
little
them
bit. Yeah.
on your next trip.
Okay.
On your next, we didn't mean we wanted to talk. There's a couple other things we ran out of time, but you've got a hunting story that I find completely haunting. You've got a couple of skiing stories that are like you talk about doing the hard thing and being a passionate, adventurous person. You've got a lot of stories. We're going to have you back on.
That'd be great.
We're going to talk about some of those things.
I want to get out there and ski next year at some point too.
Yeah,
For
sounds
sure.
good.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right.
Should we bid farewell?
Bid farewell.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching, listening. We owe you a huge debt of gratitude. The Device Guys do.
Yes, we do. And if you see someone out there without a smile on your face, give them one of yours.